So in this session, we will be discussing about a new function, a new topic in Java that is called constructor. So usually when we create a class, we create some function like this is a set size function, then this is a show size function, and these functions are used from the main by creating the object. So if we have a room class, see, we have a room class here. So in the room class, we have set size and show size function. So when we create object of the room class, we can call the show size function or the set size function. But there is a special function in a class that is called a constructor function. Why it is a special? Because the name of the class and name of that function is exactly same. So when a function in a class has same name as that of the class, then this function is called a constructor function. And this function is called automatically when you create the object of the class. And there can be multiple class by the same name. Like in this program, we have a class called room. And in this room class, there is one room function, there is another room function, there's third room function, and then there's a fourth room function. So there can be a number of functions by the same name, and each of these functions have their name exactly matching with the class name. Now, what is the use of this function? These functions are used to initialize the variable. Now, when we create first room one, the size may be different. When we create the second room, the size may be different. So what will happen when we create the object of these room classes? See here, we can create object of these room classes. This is room number one, then there's a room number two, then there's a room number three. So when we create the object of the class, here in the first object, we are not mentioning the size of the room. So this will call one function where no size is mentioned. So the default size of the room will be 15 by 10, 15 length and 10 width. Now, when we create another object of the room class, here you can see we have one more object of the room class. And when we are creating this second object, we are passing the size of the room as 15. So what will happen? This will call a function with one parameter. So if we go above here, we can see that there is a room function with one parameter. So as soon as we create the object and we pass a value, one value, this will be calling this function set size with one parameter. Similarly, we have another object of the room class, room 3, and here we are passing two values, the length and the width. So what will happen when the third object will be created? It will call this function that is at line number 12, and the length and width will be set as whatever we have defined here, 20 and 15. So constructor, what is a constructor? Constructor is a function of a class which has the same name as that of the class, and this is used to initialize the class member the objects when we create the object at the same time. We do not call it like we can call show size function room1 dot show size, but we cannot call the constructor. It is automatically called once when we create the object. Now what will happen if we see here, I'll get one tab open, and now in this program we have room one object. This room one object will have its length variable and width variable. Then we have the room two object. This will have its length variable and width variable. Since length and width are the variables in the class, so each object that we create will have this length and width. as you can see here, in this room class, we have two variables, the length and the width. So when we create the objects, each object will have these two variables, but each room of the building will have different sizes. So we have different types of functions to for different types of room that will be created. If we create a room without any value, then like in the first case, the length will be 15 and the width will be 10 because we are creating an object without passing any value. In the second case, we are calling this function that is at line number 8 and we are passing only one value. So what will happen? The length and width will be same as the value. So suppose it is 15 or 20, whatever is mentioned here, you can see it is the size is mentioned as 15. So what will happen? That here in this case, the length will be 15 as well as the width will be 15. And in the third case, we are calling a function which has the length 20 and width 15. So this will call this function here, and the length and width for this particular function will be as mentioned in the main 20 and 15. So what will happen for the third row? The length will be 20 and width will be 15. And now when we call the room 1.show size, it will show the room 1 size length is 15, width is 10. In case of room 2.show size, it will show 15 by 15. When we call room 3.show size, it will call 20 by 15. So now I'll try to run this program and see what is happening. See, it is showing. Let me first keep it till room 3.show size only so that we can get a fair idea of what is happening. Room 1, it is showing 15 by 10, room 2, 15 by 15, and room 3, if you scroll down, you can see it is showing 20 by 15 as we have created. So room 1 we have created. Here at line number 36, you can see when we are creating room 1, we are not passing any value. So it is calling a function, a room function without value, and the length and width is setting as default size. In second case, we are passing the size as 15. So length and width is 15. In third case, we are passing the length and width as 20 and 15. So it is setting the value as 20 and 15. So what is a constructor? Constructor is a function of a class which has the same name and it is used to initialize the variable, initialize the objects when we create the object. In the previous session, where we created the object of person class, voter was the voter 1 was the first object, voter 2 was the first object. So we were not passing any default value at the time of creation of the object. Later on, we were calling a function set info or something to initialize the values. But here in this case, if we do not want to call any function to initialize the values, instead we want to set the values only at the time when the object is being created. So such function is called a constructor function. The important thing that is to be remembered here is that the constructor function cannot be private. We cannot declare the construction function as private. And number two, the name should be same as that of the class name. Here again, we can see in this class, we have in this program, we have a room class. We have three constructors, room, then another room, then another room. A constructor which does not have any parameter is called default constructor. and a constructor which has some parameter. Like these two constructors are called parameterized constructor. When we pass some value into the constructor function, it is called parameterized constructor, and we do not pass any value, it is called default constructor. So every class that we create must have some constructors in it. In the coming sessions, when we'll be creating classes and more complex programs, there if we create constructor, the program becomes easier to manage also. So this is about constructor. We have to learn a lot of more points regarding constructor, but this is the basic definition of constructor, that a constructor is a function of a class which has the same name as that of the class, and it is used to initialize the variables of the class when the object is created. Here we have these three constructors which are initializing, and later on we have a show size function which is displaying the values. So in this program, if I can remove some extra, we'll discuss these things also later. But and now in this class, what we have three constructors and one show size function, and we are creating three objects with different parameters at the time of the creation, and then we are creating the source show size to calling the show size to see the what are the values of in the object, the length and width of the different rooms of the building. So the main function, the main class has a name building, and a building has three rooms. Each rooms have different sizes, and these are done with the help of constructor.